Hey everyone, this is Connor here at Deadlocked, and today I'm going to go rapid fire style and give you all one tip to improve at every single hero in Deadlock. Let's start off with Abrams here, and let's put ourselves in the shoes of the enemy. They know you're going to be punching, so try to bait out heavy melees. Look how long this is. It's very easy to parry that. Maybe consider skirting around. That was a bad example, but like that. Go Siphon Life, use your gun, do things to throw off the regular rhythm of meleeing over and over again as Abrams, because that is what the enemy is going to be expecting. For Bebop, when you are laning or when you're just trying to kill some creeps quickly, even if you're not playing a bomb build, just know you can bomb yourself, run into the wave, maybe even get some heavy melees in there or uppercuts. It's a really fast way to clear waves, get through the game quickly. That's also great for camps. This is going to be a huge part of how you get farm and have your econ function as Bebop. For Billy, I would not take a team fight or look for engages unless you have all of your cooldowns available. Maybe you could get away with not having your ults available, but I would definitely be looking to, before you get into any kind of fight, making sure you can get your combo off, do everything you need to do as Billy, because it is so important to chain those abilities together, and that is where you're going to really wreak the most havoc as Billy in Deadlock. Calico players, stay active. Be in Ava form, run around, look for boxes. You are at your best when you can surprise enemies in lane. You can be getting farm throughout the map. You are the best character in the game when it comes to box maxing and being able to move around the map and gank. Use that to your advantage. Be active early and often as Calico. As Doorman, especially in lane, I really recommend having a door ready to go at your Guardian at all times. That way, if you are in a fight, you can look to quickly set up an enemy to go through there and end up under your Guardian. This is a huge combo to set up early game, and honestly is a good reason to play pretty defensively as Doorman. It makes it very hard to push into your lane. You're very annoying. Pair that with Bell, and you have got a lot of problems on your hands as Doorman. So look to set up those doors early and play a little bit more defensively in lane as the Doorman. When playing as Drifter, specifically using your Stalker's Mark ability, just know that this one, the longer it sits on an enemy, the more bleed damage they do take for 6 seconds. So a lot of times when you put this on an enemy, they're going to be waiting for you to teleport, punch them, whatever. I would either not do that at all, especially in certain situations where it's too risky, or do it at the very last second. That way you get maximum bleed damage before you end up teleporting in when you're playing Drifter. As Dynamo, especially when laning, do not overestimate your ability ranges. You have very little ability range on almost everything you do as Dynamo, especially in the early game. It's going to be really hard to hit those abilities. Look for ability range items early on, or just look to play a little bit more defensively as Dynamo in the early game, getting value out of your healing and out of your teleport ability as well. With Great Talon, honestly, I would be looking to use Bird on cooldown once you have it, almost regardless of build. This is an ability that has a pretty small cooldown when you get it going in the late game, especially depending on what items you buy. And this is a constant threat around the map. Also look to take your time using this. This is a great scouting tool. Just the noise it makes is going to send people running. And this also, in a pinch, is a great way to send it over to a lane, clear a wave, get some souls, keep your team's waves pushed up, and give your team some value as Great Talon. But I would be looking to use this almost, right on cooldown every single time as Great Talon. When you are laning as Haze, I would really recommend you just constantly look at the other players in the enemy team. It's kind of similar to how you might play Mirage, where your job is to poke, your allies' team is to make sure to take care of the farm. It's not that Haze is a bad farmer, but when you get fixation stacks going on someone and you can kind of oppress them and not let them take the time to get them off, you can start dealing a lot of damage in the early game, be really oppressive, and should set your team up to win lane a lot of times as Haze. One of the most important things you can do as Holliday is before you get into a team fight, let's say you're fighting under bridge, before you do that is to set up a bounce pad beforehand. That way if you hit a lasso, you're able to take someone right out, extend that time, get them under walker, or even if you just need a quick way out, jump pad is a great tool, but just like McGinnis turrets, you have to set it up a lot of times before engagements. It's very important to do that as Holliday. No matter what build you're playing on Infernus, Infernus is a really important character to get farm with, especially in the mid game. So once you have Flame Dash up, once you have your Afterburn up pretty high, really look to roam the map as Infernus. Use your abilities to clear camps. You are one of the fastest farmers in the game, and when you get Infernus up to a high soul count, he really can be unstoppable. In between this, look to join fights with your ult and to set up those ganks and be able to provide your team some value while you're just farming the map through the mid game. When you're playing Ivy and you're in ult, look to stay in ult for a long time. You can drop bombs, you can be very, very annoying while you're up here. There's a lot of just distraction and value that you can bring. Pair that with a well-timed slam, and you can get a whole lot of value, crowd control, scouting, everything in between as Ivy. Also a great way to kind of globally ult and go between lanes. With Kelvin, I see a lot of people using his ult maybe slightly incorrectly. I would make sure that you keep in mind that his ult is a two, it serves two purposes. One, it's obviously a great healing tool, can sustain teams in a team fight. If you get, you and an ally caught in there with an enemy, a lot of times you can confirm that kill. But Kelvin is also great at denying resources with his dome, whether it's Urn, whether it's mid, whether it's a Guardian, or even whether it's a Walker. Use Kelvin's dome to deny resources more often, give your team time to catch up and win those fights. That's something I think a lot of players could do more as Kelvin and Deadlock. As Lady Geist, your positioning is almost solely reliant on your health bar. So when you are full health and you're able to do the things that you like to do and spam abilities and use those things, you can play pretty far back. You can also play a little bit more kind of mid-range. When you have ult, your positioning should totally change. You should be looking for spots like this, where you can kind of sneakily come out and get an ult, things like that. This is the case all over the map. When you are looking for ults, if that's the kind of style you're playing, where you're kind of running around low, that's got to drastically change your positioning. If you get caught in a mid-range situation like that with her ult, with the ability range being pretty small, you're just going to get farmed. So if you're playing for ult, be very, very careful and take your positioning very seriously. If you're trying to play Lash, especially in the early game before you have any items, you need to be using the free height that the zip lines give you early and often. Lash gets so much value from being on high ground, obviously, so he can get his big slams. And coming off the zip line is one of the best ways to at least get some value. You can also look to hang out in these higher spots in the map and kind of have some purchase set up. Look for those. Look for vertical height as much as possible on Lash. It's going to make you a problem to deal with, especially in lane. When playing McGinnis, you have to think of her as a hero with a setup. So almost similar to how Paradox has their ability to spam that you do in a certain order with, pulse, carbine, or grenade at your feet, swap, wall, all that kind of stuff. Guinness is very similar, where a lot of times you need to be grenading, healing, walling, and then maybe even ulting to try and get quick burst, a lot of damage. This is also a really defensive style hero, so a lot of times you're doing this in a reactionary kind of way to enemy pressure. This is a really great way to catch people off guard and just burst them down with your spirit damage. Or if you're playing gun build, maybe it's a little bit different of an approach, but generally speaking, this is a good mindset with McGinnis to set up your plays. As Mina, small thing, make sure early and often that you are healing off of minions and jungle creeps with your one ability. This gives you some great heal, 30 heal per kill. This can also scale. This is a great way to keep Mina topped up in the early game, and if you're in a little bit too deep, worst case, you just get out with her bats. But make sure you're doing this to sustain yourself as Mina early game in Deadlock. Mirage players need to get used to split pushing and using the ults to get back into team fights and rejoin them. This is somewhat basic for a lot of experienced Mirage players, but this is something that is really, can be tricky. If you're not getting value out of the ult and out of split pushes as Mirage, it's going to affect your overall farm and the value you can bring to team fights. It's one of the only, it's the only character that can teleport that quickly across the map. Other folks like Grey Talon and Ivy can use things to provide damage across the map, but Mirage can actually show up, use that to your advantage, split push, and teleport often. Mo and Krill can be strong with a lot of souls, but Mo and Krill can also be pretty dang effective without that many souls. So as this character, make sure that you are roaming, looking to set up your combo in team fights. And honestly, if you have especially some carry heroes on your team, like Seven, Wraith, Infernus, things like that, allow them to get souls, especially if you're laning with one of them. Leave them solo on the side lane, go gank other lanes. And again, you're looking to set up this combo right here, because that is going to be one of your biggest scaling tools in this game as Krill. A lot of times as Paige, you might be tempted to go for the across-the-map ult to try and help your teammates on a different lane and also provide some CC. For example, using it like this to try and save the, the Walker on green, or the Guardian on green, rather. I really don't think this is the way to use the ult. Look for pressure in your lane. This also has a pretty quick cast time. If you're in the middle of a fight, this is an ult that can be used very quickly to heal teammates. Think of it more as a heal and a stun than a damage dealer in your lane and not globally. As Paradox, there's a lot of setup that players can get used to when they're trying to get this ult combo down, where you wall, you grenade, you carbine, and you swap or whatever. That can be intimidating at first. At the very least, get used to grenading at your feet before you're going to go for a swap if you think you can. It's a good way to give you some extra early damage and can kind of gradually work you into being able to do that full combo, swap, wall, carbine, everything that Paradox is essentially known for. Unless it's completely safe to do so and you're alone in lane, do not use this ability to farm. It is by far and away your best escape tool, and one of the only ways you can really get out of a pinch is pocket. There's been a lot of games where I've thrown that into farm, gotten ganked from the side, and then had really no way to get out and gotten pinched and killed. So use that as an escape tool first and foremost. If you want to be greedy, use your 1 to farm. It does plenty of spirit damage, or worst case, you can always use your suitcase. As a 7 player, very often, even through all the patches, you are playing for the late game. You're playing for the late game ults or the late game just absolute spirit burst power that you're going to have. Don't be so hard on yourself in the early and mid game. Use those spots in the game to farm, take a little, take less fights than you think you probably should. And again, kind of like Infernus, your value comes when you have a lot of farm, when you can be that carry. Make sure you are doing that as 7, play a little bit more conservative to set up those late game ults. As Shiv, know that your ult is a huge threat at all times. Look to put pressure on mid-health enemies. A lot of times they're just going to run away from you because they don't want to get in your ult range as far as health goes. Use that to your advantage. Allow your, kite enemies out, put pressure on lanes doing that. People are going to be afraid of you with your ult, especially because Shiv has been so dominant in the meta in this game before that I think a lot of players just have Shiv PTSD. Use that to your advantage. Very similar to Holliday and McGinnis, I view Sinclair as a setup hero where you need to have a setup before you're going to start to do anything too serious, and that is the Spectral Assistant. This is a huge damage boost to Sinclair. It's also his best escape tool. Look to use this in a lot of different ways. Have it be ready to escape if you need to run in and try to do things. You can do that and get out, or also use it aggressively to deal more damage. This is one you can do a lot of different things with, but use your Spectral Assistant early and often on Sinclair. Victor has potentially the biggest feed potential in the game because if he gets caught out alone with ult, he's not going to just die once, he's going to die twice, and he's going to lose I think it's like 190 second or something, cooldown ult. This is a massively important tool. So when you have ult, look to be aggressive with your team, not alone. The worst thing you can do as Victor is die alone with ult. You're just going to have to sit there, get farmed, you lose your ult, you die twice. The enemy team just gets to, lord over your body. Not what we want. As Vindicta, distance is your ally. This is probably pretty natural because you're obviously a marksman character, but this really is true. Make sure you are keeping distance from enemies, using your fly to create space versus going into space. If you're going into a fight with fly, you better be very confident that your team's going to win that fight. If you do a maneuver like this, that is a very aggressive use of flight, even though obviously you can fly back. Just be careful with Vindicta. You really do want that distance. If you get collapsed on, you're in a lot of trouble. Much like the Tortoise, as Viscous, slow and steady wins the race, specifically when I'm talking about his goo ball, a lot of players I see will just zoom around this thing, trying to move as fast as possible. I think actually the more devastating way to do this, when Viscous's ball is moving slow like this, doesn't have to be in a tight space like that, but allowing yourself to just move slowly with the ball can be a lot more chaotic than when it's really zooming around the map. Look to set up those kind of slow rolls where you can put a lot of pressure on enemies, maybe even get multiple stuns in a single roll. Small thing, if you're trying to be a Vyper player, I would consider remapping where your slide is. I think standard, it's left control. That is kind of a reach, and as Vyper, you're going to be sliding a lot throughout the game. It's kind of the one thing that gives you an edge over anyone else in the game is your ability to slide, have unlimited ammo, and burst down. Remap this to a button that is really convenient for you to use. Maybe even it's a mouse button or something like that, but consider remapping your slide on Vyper. As Warden, it is one of the worst feelings when your ult is being channeled and then you get stunned out of it and you lose it. You probably are dying right after a lot of times. So when you're playing Warden, a Majestic Leap is a great tool for this to set up the channeling of the ult, but at least find yourself maybe hiding around a corner like this. That's when you can pop Barrier, Fleet Foot, all your movement stuff to be able to pop out in lane using ult. This is not an ult that you want to get killed channeling, so make sure you can channel safely and then engage with Warden afterwards. Thanks to Wraith's teleport and her close range ult, I would actually play pretty aggressive as far as positioning goes with Wraith, despite her being kind of like a more, point and shoot poke character. I really think this is a character you can play pretty dang aggressively with positioning wise because you can always do that and then set yourself up again. If you're close range, you can also use her ultimate. This is similar to the conversation with Lady Geist, where I would be a little bit aggressive depending on where your health bar is at. Obviously, lower health, you're going to want to stay away and focus on cards, things like that. But this is a character you can play a little bit more mid-range and close range than you might think. As Yamato, get used to using your abilities in what I would call a certain order. And in particular, I would get used to using your 1 first, then 2, rope in, then 3, then ult. I would start with your 1 a lot of times because that is your best setup tool. It has a range. It can be used for more mid-range. Then you close the gap and finish off with your 2 and your 3, which are very, very easy to hit. A lot of times you do this after you've hit your 1, and you can just kind of go in to finish off the kill, use cold front, things like that. Thank you all so much for watching and tuning in. Hope these tips are helpful for you. Hopefully you can get better in your next Deadlock game thanks to these tips. Let me know if you have any additional ones in the comments. Obviously, there's a ton we could do for each hero. I just wanted to get something really quick, especially for those newer players looking to pick up a new hero. Just something to keep in mind, something to know about these heroes that you might not have known before, or at least a playstyle consideration. As always, thank you all so much for the support and for tuning in. From our house to yours, we'll see you all next time here at Dead Unlocked.